Welcome back to Market Headlines. Deflations that happened on July indicates chronically weak consumer demand. Economic Observer warned the situations as the low inflation rate in the past second quarter may affect economic growth.
Indonesia currently faces a problem where consumers aren't spending enough and business aren't investing enough. These lead to deflations on July 2020 as much as 0.1%. Senior economist of InDef, Industri Hartati, stated that the consumer demand has yet to recover despite the government's decisions to reopen the economy. Based on the data from Statistik Indonesia, through the first half of 2020, Indonesia only recorded inflations of 1.5%. It means the number is very low compared to the same period of last year.
Justru terjadi deflasi itu semakin memperkuat bahwa daya beli masyarakat ini justru semakin merosot. Nah, kalau daya beli masyarakat merosot, tentu ini sebuah sinyal yang sangat buruk terhadap perekonomian kita. Karena konsumsi rumah tangga sudah pasti juga drop, padahal konsumsi rumah tangga itu penopang atau sumber pertumbuhan utama perekonomian kita. Nah, ini yang menurut saya harus benar-benar dipahami secara komprehensif.
And he warned that this situation is very dangerous because economic growth in Indonesia is largely supported by domestic consumption, meaning that if there is a weakening of purchasing power, economic growth will certainly be threatened. Jakarta, Fajar Wayong for IDX Channel.
2020 is indeed very special. It takes only 7 months, but many countries have experienced an economic slowdown or even contractions. This happens as well in Indonesia. The fall in consumer prices has prompted concerns that economy will hardly struggle to escape economic consequences of coronavirus pandemic. And the easiest indicator is by emerging deflations in the country. And yes, it is confirmed that in July, Indonesia posted deflations. To get deeper view about that, let's open up the graphic sessions with Indonesia's inflation rates timeline throughout the years. So here it is. Through the graphic, we can see Indonesia's inflation timeline throughout the years. In 2020, here it is. In January, the inflation is on the level of 0.39%. In February, it went down to be 0.28%. Meanwhile, in March, it went down again to be 0.1%. April remains stagnant, while in May, we can see the decrease as many as 0.06%, and in June, it went up only a bit by 0.18%. But however, in July, we can see a contractions of minus 0.1%. And if we gather the data, hold the data in 2020, the trend is decreasing. And based on the figure, since Indonesia confirmed its first COVID-19 cases in March and subsequently imposed the so-called large-scale social restrictions, the country inflation has been slowing down. July marked the country's lowest record inflation since 2000 by minus 0.1%. And there are some sectors that experience most deflations. Let's see what are those in the next graphic. Here it is. The sectors that has the highest contributions of deflations among of the sectors. First of all, we can see food and beverages with the deflations of 0.73%. And moving on to housing, specifically when we talk about water and electricity, that the deflation hit the number of 0.01%. And moving on to transportations, that has a deflations of 0.17%. And through the data, we can see that food and beverages has the highest deflations among of the sectors. And as food sectors contribute most of the deflations, there are certain food commodities that experience major deflations. Let's see it through the next graphic. What are those? So here it is. We can see food commodity as the main contributor of the deflations. First of all, we got shallots, which has a deflations of 0.11%. And this is quite anomaly because shallots always been an inflations. And next, it's the chicken meat, by the deflations of 0.06% of deflations, and not to mention about rice, chili, and also sugar combined to be in the deflations of 0.01%, and we gathered the data from Statistik Indonesia by this week. And beside there was a deflations of 0.1%, consumer price index of 104.95%. And out of 90 cities, there are 61 cities experience deflations and 29 cities experience inflations. Let's see the cities with the highest deflations rate first, shall we? Through the next graphic, we can see cities with the highest deflations. First of all, we can see Manokwari, Papua, by the rate of deflations of 1.09%. And moving on to Sulawesi, we have a city of Bulukumba by 0.01% deflations. And moving on to Java, we got city of Bekasi by 0.01% of deflations. But in the other hand, there are cities as well with the highest inflations among of all. So let's see what are those in the next graphic. Here it is. We also have the data, the cities with the highest inflations. We got 3 examples for you. First of all, still from the Papua, same regions as the highest deflations, but this is in the context of inflations. We got city of Timika by 1.45% of inflations. And moving on to Java, we got Banyuwangi with inflations of 0.01%. And also still in the same region of Java, we got Jember. The city has an inflation rate of 0.01%. As a low inflation also indicates low economic growth. Deflations is said to be a situations when there is an excess stock in the market while the demand is down. This is what triggers a decline in prices, and therefore, not only low inflation rates, but Indonesia has swallowed another bitter pills for the fact that economic growth in the second quarter has contracted by 2.32%. And yes, it has already been confirmed today by Statistik Indonesia that Indonesia posted negative economic growth for the first time since 1998. Deflations and minus economic growth are the worst duet of shocking drop, but pretty understandable that Indonesia economy was shut for a considerable period during quarter. Best hope goes for Indonesia to recover as soon as possible, and stay tuned on market headlines because we will be right back after this quick break.